Hi, guys. Welcome to Weekly Travel Updates. I'm Melinda Fargus, and tonight I'm coming to you from Mom's rehab room. Um, if you haven't seen my post on Facebook, Mom fell while we were on this ship, and boy, it's been a something. Um, the 2nd through the 12th of January, we were on this trip. We flew down to Florida and spent the night and got on the ship on the 3rd. And it was 8 nights Eastern Caribbean. It was wonderful. Everybody had a good time. Food was awesome as we expected. We found the best little drivers for our private shuttles and our excursions when we were in port. But on Wednesday, before we got off, it was raining and we wanted to stay at the beach. A bunch of us did. And so Mom and Linda and Jimmy and Judy and Jerry, they all went back to the ship. Well, on the way up the gangplank, Linda's foot slipped and she fell. And, the gangplank comes down and there's a lip about this tall along the side of the gangplank. Her arm hit it and it split a Y right here on the soft part of her arm. And she had to have 5 stitches. Well, that was pretty bad. And she had a black eye the next morning and we were all concerned. Thursday was gorgeous. We were in Puerto Plata. It did rain a little bit in the afternoon. And I was quite disappointed that we could not go any further than their little private, it was almost like a private island area. It had pools, it had a lazy river, it had birds and a restaurant and shops, but we couldn't go beyond this area. So like you could get off the ship and before your feet touched land, they had you make a right and you walked down a sidewalk into their waterfront private island experience area. It was nice. I just really wanted to see more of the Dominican Republic. So then on Saturday, yep, because we got off on Sunday. On Saturday, several of us are at the art auction. And I missed the text. Mom was in the buffet and she had gone by herself and she fell. Can you imagine having a drink in one hand and a plate in the other hand? And it was kind of a wobbly day at sea. So she said, Melinda, once I started falling, there was no coming back. And thankfully, somebody in front of her kind of broke her fall. But, when you're in the buffet area, it's slick marble or hard floors. And when she fell, she broke her arm right about here on her right arm. And then she crushed her shoulder. So when we got to the infirmary, they took x-rays. They could tell us that. They sent her back to her room with just ibuprofen. Well, that wasn't going to cut it. Mom is tough, but not just ibuprofen. So when Linda went down at 4:00 to have them redress her arm, they asked for something else and they gave us something else. And the next morning when the ship ported in Fort Lauderdale, the infirmary, which was really good. They were kind, they were polite, they were informative. They made the necessary arrangements. Like they called the hospital, set up an ambulance to meet us when the ship arrived. They pretty much took care of everything. And because it was a rough day at sea, we haven't seen a bill for the x-rays or anything. I did get an incident report so I can file insurance because, since we've been home, now she's had to have surgery and all kinds of things have gone on. So um, it'll be a lot of paperwork to it, but the services were good. Just wanted you to know, both Mom and Linda, who happen to be roommates, they were the two that fell on this trip, and they both agreed the infirmary was good. Okay. Well, if you've seen the news, and several people have called me from out of state, yes, North Carolina got hit with a snowstorm. We had a record-breaking winter storm. In Burlington, where I am, we had 7.6 inches of snow, and one of the ladies here, one of Mom's nurses, said that it was 12 inches at her house. But we have heard 12 inches from several spots across the state. So it's record breaking because we haven't had this much snow in like 23 years. It's record breaking because we haven't had temperatures this low, and it's going to stay low. I mean, we got up this morning, it was 6 degrees with a wind chill, felt like 8 below zero. You couldn't see any wind, and I would imagine with wind, it would have been even worse. But anyway, it is blustery out there. Yesterday, the wind was blowing, and you could just see snow drifts all across the window. We have a nice view, a window with a pond view behind us. So it was pretty to watch the snow come down. This is actually a map. Now, we are right in the center of the state. You can see North Carolina and South Carolina got hit the hardest across the nation, but we're expecting some more possibly Wednesday night. So that is that. I love the snow, but since I am at hospital, and I've been at the hospital and now at the rehab facility with Mom, I haven't gotten out in it yet. I did get out in it last weekend, the day after it snowed. She needed some things, and I drove to Walmart. And boy, I was on roads that nobody had driven on. And it was so much fun. I was in her Cadillac, and it's a heavy car. So, you could just gun it a little bit, and it'd scoot this way, and gun it a little bit, and it'd scoot that way. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. The drive home several days later, after they scraped everything and much of it had become ice, that was not nearly as fun. Well, besides us having the biggest snowstorm, all across North Carolina, we saw from 7 to 12 inches. Today's record breakers are not just for North Carolina. Florida has seen the lowest temperatures that it has seen in decades. Even Disney closed down the water park earlier this past week because of the record lows in Florida, and they continue to break records each day. Today was a record breaker for Florida. On Sunday, over 11,400 flights were canceled because of this storm Guyana, which is this winter storm. Down at the coast at Wilmington, they had 6 inches of snow, which is very, very rare. But beyond that, in Buxton, because this storm came in like a hurricane, I mean, it was blowing and the wind and sand mixed together. The newscaster that I listened to this morning said, I've been in hurricanes. That's what this storm feels like. And it did take another house down along Buxton County in Rothantham, North Carolina. Another 2-story house that's been there for decades, and it's just gone to the sea. It was not occupied. That makes like the 30th house that the sea has taken in that area. Well, today, San Francisco had a swarm of earthquakes. It started at 6:30, and at 7 o'clock, that was the strongest quake of the morning, a 4.2 on the Richter scale. And it was followed by more than 30 earthquakes by lunchtime today. Now, I don't know if you've been watching, but while we were on the cruise, part of the road right along the cliffs in Monterey County, there was a landslide and it just took out part of the road. I don't really think it was part of PCH. I haven't looked into it yet, but I did see that there was damage. And, you just really hate to see that. There are so many homes that are right on the cliff sides that we'll have to see what happens. But if there's anything catastrophic, we'll lose those homes. It's kind of like what they're experiencing over in Sicily on the 28th, just a few days ago. There was a huge landslide, and it looks just like the cliffs in Northern California. They're sandy cliffs all the way to the top. They look like they could be 60, 80, 90 feet high. And then there are homes along the top. Well, part of it broke away, and fence lines, part of the fence is sticking out where there is no ground anymore. And there were about 5 homes that were along this strand, and 1,500 people have been evacuated because of the threat of more happening in Sicily. Well, let's see. Oh, today or this weekend started some new fees. The Trevi Fountain is the first thing that comes to mind. Now it costs €2 to go into the Trevi Fountain area, and then you'll pitch over your shoulder whatever coin you want. But I've been a dozen times, and I'm not even sure how they are going to gate the Trevi Fountain off, because it's in a street. I'm anxious to see how that works. But that's just one of the new things that have happened. The UK have the new electronic visas that are required, starting at $30. When you travel internationally this year, let me check for you and see what is required. I can tell you that it won't cost you a dime. If it's something that I can help you with, I'm more than happy to. And if not, I'm happy to tell you the best way to go about it. The end of the year summary showed major changes in travel in 2025 going into 2026. The first thing is that we had 8 months of falling tourism from our European travelers that so fill our country. We are way, way down for Europe travelers. We're way, way down for Australian travelers, sports teams, school groups. Many of them have opted out of traveling to the United States during this last half of 2025 and the first half of 2026. And while the US travelers are traveling more than ever, and they're traveling more within the United States than they ever have, it's a great impact to the industry as a whole, but it is not going to make up for the international travel losses that we have. So we'll be anxious to see how that's going to affect us going forward. TSA is hitting travelers with a $45 fee if you don't have the real ID or a passport. There's a whole list of acceptable identification, but don't go to the airport and not have something. You can have a birth certificate with a driver's license, a birth certificate with a DMV ID card. You can have, besides your passport, you could travel with a visa and any other form of identification. A visa like issued to have traveled somewhere so that they can see that you are authorized to travel. There's a lot of changes, but one of my clients called and said, they're charging $90 if you don't have the real ID. Well, they could charge $90. I was trying to find that number today. All that I could find was you could pay $45 up front in advance, meaning, and avoid the extra scrutiny at the airport. You still have to come up with enough to prove your identity and your physical location. But for that extra scrutiny that's involved, they're charging $45 for that. And I would imagine you get to the airport with nothing, and those are the people getting charged $90. So that's kind of it for tonight, guys. Mom is due back from physical therapy any minute. She is going to be fine. Miss Linda is going to be fine. They took out her stitches this past Friday. Mom has just had a challenge in getting beyond this. We had problems with her breathing. We had pulmonary issues when she was in the hospital, and they kept us in there 8 days. It's been a battle. And now we are back in Burlington at Liberty Commons, and I'm not sure how long we're going to be here, but as long as they give her good care, we just want her to get stronger. She just wants to be able to play the piano again. So she's been sitting here, and she'll do like this just to keep, well, not with her hands up because her hands down in a sling at her waist, but you know what I mean. Anyway, keep her in your prayers. I mentioned to you one of our travelers that did not get to go, Jimmy Gunnell. He and Dolly did not get to go with us because he's battling cancer. And I got an update from a mutual friend this afternoon, and he really needs our prayers, guys. So please add Jimmy and Dolly Gunnell to your prayer list. And I appreciate it. I will not go without sharing that our next big deal is going to be Alaska. We're going to try and pull off a small group trip this fall, but our next big trip will be a 10-night Alaska cruise tour with Princess Cruises. And we're going to fly into Fairbanks and stay at the Princess Fairbanks Lodge. It's a gorgeous property. I stayed there last year, and they will do a tour for us on a riverboat that first day that we arrive, and then we'll head down to Denali, and we'll go into Denali National Park, and then we will get on the Alaska Railroad and go all the way south from Denali to Talkeetna to Anchorage to Seward or Whittier, and we'll pick up our ship there, and we'll have a southbound itinerary seeing glaciers, Juneau, Skagway, and Ketchikan, and we'll end in Vancouver, and we will fly back from Vancouver. And you know, guys, if you do this during wave season, if you can get your deposit of $250 in by February, I think it was 18th. I think it was February 18th. The third guest in a cabin, third or fourth guest in a cabin, if you had 3 in a room or 4 in a room, the rates for 2027 are as good as we had in 2024. Now, I'm not sure how they can do that, but I was shocked and amazed. So we are going back with Princess. We are going back and staying at Princess Lodges because they have great client satisfaction, and we're going to do the Alaska Railroad. So give me a call, 336-222-8747. Now, I am here in a facility with Mom. I am staying with her like I did at the hospital because she just doesn't hear well. And she just needs an advocate, because the nurse could come in and say, "Do you need something for pain?" And she smiles and shakes her head. And the next nurse can come in and say, "Are you okay for the night?" And she smiles and shakes her head. Yes, she just doesn't hear them. So thank you for your prayers. Thank you for letting me share this with you and giving you a brief update. Think about all that's going on with the shaking ground in the Northwest, and watch out for the next snowstorm that we may have a Wednesday of this week. Just a couple more inches. So I will keep you informed. Remember that Sandals has got this sweetheart of a deal for February. And the resorts are trying not to be outdone with their all-inclusives at up to 68% off. We are in wave season, and what that means is all the cruise lines are doing promotions, doing great specials, because they're trying to get money on the books here at the first of the year. So it's called wave season because it's some of the best prices of the year. And let's see, who is it? Viking is charging like a $25 per person deposit. You can book a Viking cruise with only $25. Anyway, I am anxious to serve you this year. It's going to be a fabulous year. All of the indicators say that travel is going to be way up again, and we're pleased. I'm very satisfied with where Mom is. I think everybody in our group from the celebrity cruise in January, we're very pleased, and we're going to do it again. So keep us in mind. Watch out. And if you found value in this tonight, please share this with somebody else. And remember, without a travel agent, you're on your own. I'm Melinda Fargus. I own Action Travel, and I'm here to serve you. Thanks so much. And ciao until next Monday.